Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thought I'd jump on the community push that we have at the moment around the top 25 movies of the 90s. The 90s being one of, well, if not the formative years of my movie watching, the end of the VHS era for me. So I bought a lot of these things in VHS before we moved into what would be the DVD era, etc. So the start of my physical media journey as well. And this is supplemented obviously with films that I've seen in more recent times, more recent years. So it's a decent mix of, current things that I've seen maybe in the past 5-6 years, but mostly it's a kind of run of nostalgia for the films that I loved around that time. And in short, is dominated by a couple of filmmakers. But we'll get to that. We'll start at number 25, and we're starting with a film that is in that category of things that I've seen more recently. And when I was looking at my list and kind of made my short list of about 40 or 50 and then kind of got down, slotted things in and out and whatever, I ended up at 25 with Hanabi, or Fireworks, by Takeshi Kitano. And one of the things that really strikes me about Fireworks is the complex nature of it. The kind of story of a police detective who is caught kind of in the middle of doing the right thing but caught on the wrong side of the law because of circumstances, etc. It's a violent film in a lot of ways, but it's a really interesting character piece at the heart of it all, and those are the kind of stories that I generally love. 24 is the first entry from this group of filmmakers, if you want, and really the underrated one out of all of them. This is from the Coen brothers, and the first of the Coen brothers movies that is on this list, and it is the Circle Proxy. Now, nobody really talks about the Circle Proxy, and partly I think because, its availability isn't all the way there, but Tim Robbins starring this kind of tale of this thing for kids is a movie that I watched over and over and over again when I had it in VHS, when I actually basically collected all of those Coen Brothers movies on film, and were my first real avenue into auteur cinema, this kind of consistent voice that I could track from film to film. And I absolutely love Circle Proxy, from the quality of the script to just the general fun that they have with something that doesn't seem like would make glamorous film material, but utterly great in some way. 23. Well, we've got one of our animated entries in here, and I've gone for Ghost in a Shell. And Ghost in the Shell is the anime make that was subsequently remade with Scarlett Johansson much later, but this is the original. Now, I do love Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence as well, but I'd watched this back in the day, and this kind of blew my mind in terms of how anime could tell really sophisticated sci-fi stories that really weren't coming out of anywhere else. It was too mature, it was too adult for, the cartoon world that was being shown. Western audiences weren't really interested in seeing something this deep or complex, certainly in this form, and they mix the two of them together. I get something that I still to this day really enjoy as being, thematically rich, being interesting, and kind of an exploration with emotion on a subject matter or a set of characters who are sort of emotionless in a lot of ways, and it kind of speaks to that philosophical idea of what is sentience and all of that kind of stuff. Love Ghost in the Shell as a recommendation. Number 22, again, one of my favourite filmmakers, and a film that I've seen in the cinema, and it's Starship Troopers by Paul Verhoeven. When I remember going to the cinema and kind of a lot of people thinking, God, it's an action movie. It was billed very much as an action CGI fest at the time, and certainly it is to some extent, but even from watching it in the cinema the very first time, I love the fact that it went all out in being a political satire and a play on the futility of war and all of the themes that go along with it. Like a lot of Verhoeven stuff, so thematically rich, so thematically well prescribed in how he approached it and kind of tried to make the most of what he was trying to say. An utterly brilliant filmmaker, and I do love Starship Troopers. 21. Bit of a personal one, this one. Again, I haven't seen this in many lists, but I think as far as comedy, and again, we're in the sci-fi world again, we've had a run of these already. I'm going to go for Galaxy Quest, a film that kind of, it's one that I should have hated. It kind of takes the mickey out of a lot of the TV sci-fi that I love, the kind of Star Trek, etc. that was going on there, in much the same way as The Orville has done more recently. Another show that I really like, that I really shouldn't, because it pokes fun at a lot of the things that I kind of took very seriously as a young man, but it's sort of done well enough and with an interesting enough story that I think it's utterly watchable and something that I really hold quite dear. And God, please God, give us a really nice release, so many of it. That would be great. Number 20. We've just had Everything Everywhere All at Once come out and been described as one of the most creative movies of all time. Well, that may be right, but I would like to throw this in here, which is this collaboration between Spike Jonze and the pen of Charlie Kaufman, and that is being John Malkovich. I remember seeing John Malkovich and going, what the hell is this? But being transfixed and watching it over and over and over and over again. And it also starred one of my favourite people of the time, stars at the time, that being John Cusack, the film star that I could identify with. He wasn't good enough looking that I couldn't identify with him. He wasn't, love being John Malkovich. Great casting, just chock full of ideas, and it's just a splendour for the eyes. And if you like something like Everything Everywhere All at Once and you watch this, I think you may see some sort of similarities between the two, certainly at the heart of them and their ethos. Number 19, another animated movie, and maybe a bit controversial, but maybe because this is a film that I have seen, I don't know, many times through various stages of my life. It was the birth of Disney, or the rebirth, of Disney animation in a lot of ways. And then as I've gotten older and have had kids, daughters, etc., we've rewatched it so many times. It's Beauty and the Beast and the animated storytelling of that. The wonder that you could, again, ascribe to fairy tales was back on screen in animated form. And I'm a big fan of musicals anyway, so you combine all that stuff together and you get a great movie. 18 is a film I would have had lots of favourite. Comedies was a genre that I really liked when I was a lot younger. I've sort of grown out of, and a lot of my favourites from that time, I sort of went from loving to liking. Things like Dumb and Dumber. A lot of the Farrelly Brothers movies actually from that time would kind of fit in there, but one keeps growing, and it is one of those films that I get to watch all the time. It's on TV all the time, and it's utterly rewatchable for me, and it's Groundhog Day with Bill Murray and McDowell. And Ned Ryerson, Stephen Tobolowsky, and it is just that it's so much fun in that. It's Bill Murray at his very, very best, and a film that is endlessly rewatchable to me. 17, maybe the first prominent movie that's going to appear in the list, and one that again blew my socks off at the time. It was very storied when it came out, and then eventually I got to see it, and it deserves every bit of plaudits that it's got. I would say some of these filmmakers' movies have sort of surpassed it to make this almost forgotten, but we're talking about Seven from David Fincher, and a really stylish, neo-noirish bit that really plays with the camera. I think uses the very ethos and essence of filmmaking at its fullest to kind of, it took things in a direction, and I think a lot of modern filmmaking pays homage to the kind of work that Fincher was introducing there, and how dark and how gritty it was, and how that could sail in Hollywood. So great favourite of mine. 16 is another foreign film, a more recent favourite, I would say, and I was kind of left in a bit of a quandary of when I was putting the list together and putting things around. For this director, features very prominently. Krzysztof Kieślowski is the director, and certainly the Three Colours trilogy is in there, but as time has went on and I've rewatched these films again and again, it's Double Life of Veronique is the one that really sticks with me as being, maybe because it is standalone, but so poignant, and again the level of filmmaking, and Kieślowski's just such a wonderful voice of cinema, just gone far too soon. It's such a pity we didn't get much more out of him, but I just think Double Life of Veronique, telling the story of the dual or split personalities, is one that really both resonates with me and one that I really revel in when I go to watch it on multiple levels. 15, another one of those Coen Brothers movies, it's Miller's Crossing. Albert Finney, Gabriel Byrne, and again this kind of throwback but noirish tale, of gangster tale. A level of script and a level of acting that some might argue is the very best of the Coen Brothers movies in terms of like putting all those things together, and it sits a bit further down than another one because it is not quite as quirky as some of the other Coen Brothers movies, but like look how high it is in this list. It's just something that's utterly great. Number 14 is a film that a lot of people have revisited and sort of have problems with for numerous reasons. It's American Beauty from Sam Mendes. I still think this movie is incredible. you can celebrate or have a go at the things that it is and the things that it does that are problematic or all the rest of it, but it was supposed to be problematic, even without all of the Kevin Spacey stuff that came much later. It was supposed to be challenging, and rather than criticize it for the things that the faults that it has, you can revel in the things that it does that are really great. In terms of I think it was the very first movie that I really noticed or really was made to take real stock of cinematography, and Conrad Hall's legendary lighting in that, and it has one of the greatest female performances of all time, Bennett Benning. I think struggle to think of anything that's even close to it. It's just terrific. 13, another favourite one, a film that was again mismarketed or something. I think it's a real interesting deep character study by an utterly brilliant filmmaker. We're talking The Truman Show. It was, Jim Curay was making films about that time that were very much vehicles for his character, and a lot of those are very forgettable. Some of them are great, but Truman Show was elevated, and I still think to this day that man should have got an Oscar for that, because it is such a multi-layered performance, such a connected performance, and something that I just think is a very underrated movie. Number 12, Coen Brothers time again. You're starting to see how prominent Coen Brothers were in this, and a film that many years, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would have been much, much higher, but still quite high on the list. It's Big Lebowski. One of the great ensemble casts that I can think of, even minor roles for Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tara Reid. You have, obviously Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, who I think, John Goodman, one of the most underrated actors of all time. Could do comedy, could do serious drama very well, and also, John Turturro appears in all of these things. Fabulously humorous black comedy, and something that is utterly quotable, and something that still to this day find it hard not to be drawn towards watching it whenever the opportunity is there. Number 11, something that's moved up here much more recently as well, is Curay by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. I think Kiyoshi Kurosawa is a filmmaker that I absolutely love a lot of his stuff. I could have included a lot of films of his in this list, but Curay is the one that really sticks with me as being moody and being psychologically deep in it. As you've got what is essentially a manhunt for a serial killer, but it's so much more than that. It's so brooding, it is so beautifully lit and shot, and it asks so many questions of you, the viewer, that I think it's definitely worth delving into. Getting into the top 10, here's the Tarantino film, and it is, of course, Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown, for me, is just the tightest of all Tarantino scripts. It's the thing that also is the list homage, I think, than other things. It has Pam Grier starring in a film before I really knew who Pam Grier was, but it is utterly brilliant in it. Robert Forster's in it, Bridget Fonda's in it, De Niro's in it. It's just such a tight and clever script that I think is, for me, the most well-rounded and well thought out Tarantino script, and I utterly adore Jackie Brown. Please God, somebody give that a really deluxe release someday, because that is one that I would really like to get into the mind of, for Tarantino especially. Did he often just think of the actors first and then the script later, or did it go the other way around? Love Jackie Brown. Number 9, very much a Criterion favourite, and a film that blows my socks off. Probably, for good reason, the least seen of this list, but it is a film that stays with you. It's Brighter Summer Day by Edward Yang, and this is a film I could talk about endlessly. I know it rubs some people off the wrong way because of its protracted length. I totally understand. In fact, does it even use the length well? I would argue yes, other people would say no, but then I'm getting something out of that. I know, because I've discussed people about this, about what happens. What the question I always come with this is, at what point of the movie do the events of the movie become inevitable? That is the question that it just bothers me so much when I watch that, especially given it's a true story or otherwise. Brighter Summer Day, phenomenal movie, which takes me to number 8. I swear this is the last one. This is the last Coen Brothers movie. You'll probably not be surprised to hear it's Fargo. Fargo is a film that I liked first time I seen it, like a bit more every time I see it. I'm not even sure why it grows. I mean, it is a fabulous script. It's so wacky, it's so weird, it's so very classic Coen Brothers of this time. It takes a lot of the greatest hits and a lot of the greatest ideas and throws them into one. And then you throw William H. Macy, you throw Steve Buscemi, you show Frances McDormand at it, and you just... acting performances just even elevate that wackiness and weirdness even further. It makes me roar out loud sometimes at how funny it is. And, it's deeply touching and emotional in other ways. Fargo it's just brilliant movie. Number 6. This isn't going to appear in many movies, but if there was one movie that defined this entire period of my life, it is Doug Liman's Swingers, with Jon Favreau, Vince Vaughn. If ever there was a story or a movie that I lived by, you've got to remember that around this time, a lot of the Hollywood was dominated by pretty boys. People that were very beautiful. River Phoenix was very much a thing at this time. Everybody had to be sort of beautiful, with the exception of John Cusack that I talked about. And here was a movie that celebrated the people that really hadn't got a clue in the dating world. It was sort of me. The people that were fumbling about, that kind of just wanted a normal, decent life, but that weren't finding it. And this... I can't tell you how many times I've seen Swingers. I have seen Swingers hundreds of times. It became every week. I would watch it a couple of times a week. That for years. And I love Swingers. I could talk about it endlessly as being a temple of cinema and of, for me and my friends, very, very quotable. What was the thing that just bounced off back and forward continually about? Just love that film. But it doesn't make it any higher than 7, because at 6 we have one of my favourite filmmakers of all time with his greatest movie, in my opinion. That is All About My Mother by Pedro Almodovar. This film, again, encapsulates everything that's good about Almodovar, which is, weird and wacky characters, real situations and garish storytelling that you don't see very much anywhere else. You don't see these characters in other movies, yet here we are with this incredible story about somebody trying to find connection with the past and about who they were. And I just love how different All About My Mother is, and has this sort of garish filmmaking that is very much Pedro's style. Just think All About My Mother is just the very epitome of everything that he's done. Number 5, another filmmaker with a movie that every time I watch it elevates up the list. It's Age of Innocence by Martin Scorsese. Scorsese's a bit hit and miss for most people, I would say. His great periods and his down periods, etc. For me, this is just wonderful. There's something about the Age of Innocence. Probably a lot to do with the performance, but it's not just that. It's Scorsese at his best with his camera work. It's Scorsese at his best with his storytelling. It's just utterly wonderful. It's like being carried on a river and just kind of being swept along in a genre that I don't even really usually enjoy. But here we are with a period drama. 4, my former favourite film of all time, I would say. I loved the noir style of it, loved everything about it at the time, and it was so smart and clever. It's LA Confidential. And again, all-star cast right across the board. It first captivated me because it had Mike Out of Neighbours, Guy Pearce in it, in a time before he was a thing, and then had, there's another spacey reference. There was Russell Crowe was in it, Kim Basinger was just brilliant movie that is smart and is clever. And I love, the Rolo Tomassi line is the Rolo Tomassi line is just one of my favourite lines in all of cinema, just for the cleverness of not having to spell everything out for your audience, but just letting them sit. It is so Chinatown, and Chinatown being another one of my favourite films of all time, this kind of is a lovely partner piece to it. Bring me to number 3, a film that probably doesn't deserve to be this high because I've only really seen it this year, but I watched it 3 times back to back when I did see it. I just think it's utterly amazing. It's a documentary. It is Paris is Burning. If you've seen my watch list about it earlier on the year, Paris is Burning is sensational film. Sensational filmmaking about a group of people who people aren't making films about. You don't see an awful lot about, aside from the fact that, of course, they made a TV series about Paris is Burning and the characters that are in it, because it's such an interesting and layered world and set of characters. Paris is Burning, off the charts, amazing. Lead me to number 2, and I have to apologise, number 2 and 1 are such personal favourites that, they represent everything that's good about cinema in a lot of ways. They make me happy, they make me sad. But 2 is very much about characters. 2 is Jerry Maguire, Cameron Crowe's movie. Great script, I know it's the romance, but the romance actually is to me, is just showing you exactly what the film is not about. I think it's so clever. I think Crow, actually this film is a bromance, and he puts a romance in there to actually contrast actually that the traditional Hollywood tropes of the romance, and showing that plays secondary to this bromance between Cuba Gooding Jr. and Tom Cruise, and the fact that looking after each other and respecting another human being, a side of romantic ties, is really what life's all about. Man, Jerry Maguire makes me cry every bloody time I watch it. It just gets me right here. I'm sorry that's not a popular opinion, but that's just something. And number one is totally unapologetically my favourite film of all time. There is no film that gives me joy and celebrates what's great about watching movies than this film. Many years ago, I suppose now, I was on Nathan Jones' channel and he asked me what's my favourite film of all time, and it hasn't changed. Film that I have watched hundreds of times. It's not watchable for me as long as the idea pops in my head. It is Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit. I know it's not even that great a movie, but for me, it celebrates everything that's great about cinema. And for somebody that loves musical theatre, for somebody that loves the art of good melodrama, this is melodrama off the charts. And like all good melodrama, it's kind of kitschy. It's kind of a bit on the nose. All things I know, but I love it. And there's my top 25 films of the 90s. Very much my list, I think, and one that maybe some people might get some recommendations out of, some might not, but hopefully this has not been completely a waste of your time. If you've made it this far, thanks very much for watching. If you've made the list of your own, I'd look forward to seeing it. You can drop the link to it in the comments, that would be great. I'll check it out. And if not, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time on the channel. Take care.